Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. What I'm going to do today is try to craft a throwing stick off the landscape. So this is off a pattern that I got at the Creek Stewart Skill of the Month Club, and it's not a boomerang, this is a throwing stick. But you can see, there's a little bit of technology involved as opposed to a stick. So this was plywood, it's about 1/2 inch plywood. From a third out, I kind of gave it a chisel point. It flies really well, way better than a stick. There is a learning curve with this, but today I wanted to try to craft one off the landscape using just my hand tools. And right here, this is plenty big to give me enough meat to remove, the high spots, the low spots. I'll still be able to keep this contour. So I'm going to make my cut here, and I'll make my cut back here. Alright, so I got some work cut out for me. I split this log in half, started it with my axe, and then had to use wedges. So I used wooden wedges to make the split. And if we lay the throwing stick into the wood, you see what a nice match this is. So I've got plenty of meat to remove. For the most part, I'm going to stay in the heartwood, which is going to be the darker colored center. This is red oak. So I got about 45 minutes to work on this. So you see I've got this twist. So my first goal is going to be to try to hew this twist down and make this as flat as possible. Once I've established that, then I'm going to flip it over and try to hew this whole thing down into, approximately 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, something like that. So we're coming along as far as the board goes. I'll show you one little problem that you encounter with this grainy oak like this. So I was hewing in the down direction and my axe bit and it's starting to split. So if I was to carry this out and try to get overly aggressive and thin too much at once, I'd crack right through the board. So to counteract that, you got to flip it upside down, hew at it the other direction, and we'll take this this big chip off in a controlled manner. One thing you can see, okay, this is the center of the tree, so this is the heartwood. And as I'm starting to nip through the sapwood, you can see I'm starting to expose the heart. So that's going to be like my indicator as far as thickness goes. Now that doesn't mean the rings don't run in and out, so it's not going to be a great indicator. But if I start seeing heart, I definitely need to slow down in that area. You know, we went from this to this in a relatively short amount of time, maybe a half hour tops. So I'm just going to trace a line here. Okay, I don't know how well it's showing up here. I can barely see the viewfinder because of the glare. But I've got my lines. I'm going to try to hew the sides out. Now this is tricky because of the way the grain runs, but it's going to be super tough right through here. So this inside curve is going to be a whole lot harder than the outside. Even though the grain itself turns, it doesn't turn the same angle I want it to. So I'm going to make a stop cut. So I'm going to make a cut across to break the grain fiber. That way it should split down, stop at the stop cut, and not carry right through and you know, split my throwing stick out. Okay, that's right on the pencil line, more or less. And the stop cut did its job. So I'm going to continue and do that technique. I'm going to maybe give it, everywhere there's a hard curvature of the grain, I'm going to stop that. Because if not, I'm going to blow right through this thing with that axe. Okay, perfect example right here. I put another stop cut in right here. Just gave it one little hit, but because it's on the inside curve like this, it came right out. And if you look at how that fiber was rolling, it was going to run into this and take this bottom edge off. So it was going to essentially take this sapwood off. Okay, so got my contour down, got the rough shape hewed out. So I'm losing battery here, and I'm going to keep working. I'm on a roll. So I decided to forego the knife. This is pretty tough, pretty thick still. So you can see the line here. I'm just shaving along this edge. And it gives me a pretty decent edge. It's usable. anytime you get a crazy split like this. You know, if I carry on with it, it looks like it's going to carry over off the side in too deep. So when you get one of these, you just flip it over, you go down the other way. Alright, so as far as the shape, the contour, the thickness, you know, the radiused edges, you know, everything's done on this. The only thing left to do is just, you know, use the back of my knife like a spoke shave. Kind of clean this up. Any sharp edges, you know, I'm going to come along and, you know, just take the sharp edges off anything. You know, any sharp edge, when I start throwing this thing, is likely for it to splinter off. So I've got a stick set up behind me. Now the whole point of this, and probably its best attribute, is that it's designed to be thrown, you know, sidearm low to the ground. So if you had, you know, a flock of geese or something, or ducks, and this thing's spinning, you know, just off the ground, you've got a 2-foot window basically to hit the thing. I think that's its best attribute, you know, as opposed to being a traditional rabbit stick. You know, if the rabbit's there, you throw it, you've got a pretty good chance of getting it. But I'd rather throw it into a flock of geese as they're trying to take off. All I got to do is wing one. You know, I break a wing, break a neck, get something. I'm eating with this tonight. So I'm going to give this a couple throws. I've got a dead stick standing up. This one right here, that is not a tree, that's just a stick I stuck in the ground. It's about 10 or 12 yards away. Okay, so this was one of the Creek Stewart Skill of the Months. You know, it's kind of neat coming out here. There's no way I would have came out and carved a rabbit stick today. You know, that wouldn't have happened. So, good excuse to get out of the woods. I do appreciate that it had a pattern. If I was trying to guess at this pattern in this curvature, it's something I would have obsessed about and never would have quite gotten it right. As far as flying, this thing flies great. So, you know, knife saw and an axe and, you know, a little piece of a tree, and you can go out and make one for yourself. This has been Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. See you next time.